Hello everyone. We've currently got a little minor technical difficulty that I'm working through, so I'm going to leave the chat up for a few seconds more, and John's in the background there, but we'll just try and fix it. Something weird happened to my camera just before going live, so bear with us for a couple of seconds.
I'm here if you can see me. Hi everyone.
Won't be long.
Hey, how you going?
You're not up yet, John.
You're not up yet. See you, Mitch. Shot of John and the guest, which is on the far right bottom. Okay, everyone, here's the fun of the day. There's something wrong with my camera, and unfortunately it's my show, so that's a bit of a problem. Sabotage.
It was working fine just before.
Yeah.
So
hey Mitch, how you going, mate? Looks like we just got right in there, Greg. So anyway, Greg, we'll see you in about an hour, hey?
Look, I'll go and try and fix up my camera, but look, I tell you what, you go do impromptu say hello stuff.
All right. Hi, everybody.
Introduce yourself.
I love all this. Hi, I'm John Morrison. I'm a regular co-host of the show. Great to have you back. We'll launch into some news. Perhaps your chat can come through and dictate the news. And go ahead, Mitch. Okay,
and we don't have Mitch's audio up yet. So hang on. Let's press a button for that.
Oh, yeah, I can hear Greg still going crazy in the background.
Yeah.
He's going.
We haven't got Mitch's audio up yet. Okay, can you put that...
So it looks like it's only me at the moment. But so anyway, well, I'll kick off with the news, everybody. You know, the last few weeks I've been talking about EVLOS, or BVLOS as it is. I hold in my hand our final approval has been ticked off. So as if you haven't followed this at all, just a quick update. In Australia here, the regulators have been looking at extending our range that we can fly our aircraft with using visual observers. Not a new practice, but certainly a new regulation. And so the last I have it, the procedures have been approved, and CASA are going to come, one from Brisbane, one from Canberra. 2 inspectors are going to fly in to watch us actually do an EVLOS operation. So there you go. To give you an idea, not outstanding range, the range really is only about 1,500 metres, kilometre and a half, and how you're going to fly your aircraft at that distance, mitigating any risk to manned aircraft and so forth. So it is essentially beyond visual line of sight, where an observer can see the airspace that you're flying in, not the actual aircraft. So not the actual drone itself. So that's pretty exciting news, and we hope that after a safety case has been made, that'll extend down to recreational flyers too, that can quite safely fly this, if you like, extended line of sight. Know where the aircraft is. There he is. I can see him. He's back. Are you sure that's not a still?
Goodness.
You haven't
No, it's
pasted
not
in
a still. It's not a still. It's actually me. And sorry about that, guys. We had a problem before the show where something wasn't quite right in Wirecast, and I said, okay, we're going to restart it. So we restarted Wirecast, checked all of our settings. Everything was good. The camera was looking good up in the stuff that the guys were seeing, but then send it live and things go wrong.
It's all good now, mate. Head into it. We're all good to go.
Okay, so welcome to Oz by Drone. I'm Greg, he's John, and we're going to talk about drones today somehow, somewhere. And before we do anything, let's get into the news. And our first story today is something that's close to my own heart. U2's Bono launches a blood delivery by drone service in the Philippines. Zipline, of which U2 frontman Bono is a board member, will partner with the Philippine Red Cross. Let's have a look.
Nations in dire need of blood donations may soon access blood by drone delivery services with or without U2. This as Irish band U2 vowed to help Philippine Red Cross in cooperation with the California-based automated logistics company Zipline, of which U2 frontman Bono is a board member. With this first drone delivery service in the country, health workers may place orders through text messages and receive blood deliveries weighing as much as 1.8 kilos within 30 minutes. This helpline aims to bridge delivery gaps in geographically disadvantaged areas by the summer of 2020.
So yeah, Zipline, it's not anything new. We've spoken about it, we've heard about it before, but I was kind of a little bit chuffed to see that the Philippines is picking up on that.
Yeah, it's good. Well, the Philippines, as you very well know, Greg, 1,000 islands, and that's absolutely the right environment for these aircraft to shine. Just obviously not as much restricted airspace, a lot of military airspace there, but of course they'll work around that, but not so much light aircraft traffic, if you like. But what a great thing for more remote areas in the Philippines to get those deliveries. Yeah, as you say, not new, but you know, it takes some money. I'm really glad Bono put his hand up and came up with the money. That's what's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, really good one, and I want to keep an eye on that one in the background. So good to see my second country taking that one up. Moving on to our second story of the day today, autonomous drone racing. So recently, Kelly Shaw's went and had a look at the Drone Racing League and specifically at the artificial intelligence racing. So let's play this clip.
707 from the DRL. We had one team make 2 gates, I think, in the first level. At the second level, we saw one team make it all the way to the end. And to level 3, where we actually saw 2 teams make it to the very end.
Today in practice, we saw a team complete the course in 10 seconds flat. Now that is getting pretty close to how fast the human pilot is able to run that course.
It's actually quite nerve-wracking because as I watched them grow, I thought, I got this, they can't finish. I'm just gonna come in and then just putts to the end and it's gonna be a walk in the park. So I'm sitting in the goggles and the thing is flying itself. So let me tell you, that is very scary.
and you were watching first person.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there and first of all, the aircraft goes, you're like, oh, wait a minute. I could never imagine doing that. And then the thing goes full tilt. Ah! So it goes straight for this pillar. And then last moment, the drone levels out, goes pa, pa. And then now we're through the gate. I'm like,
So it's not curving. It's making almost 90-degree turns.
I could have never, ever do that.
From the left side of the gate.
So I'll just fade that audio down there. This is actually some of the runs there going through the gates, and these are AI programs, computer software doing what pilots are doing. And you heard what he said there. Some of these AI programs are doing 10 seconds roughly. Look at this one. This one's funny. He falls over and knocks over his mate. Maybe that was a special piece of AI to go and take out the competition.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I'd love to find out more about the tech. Obviously, GPS is not good enough for that kind of work.
No, it's 100% based on the cameras, vision sensors only.
Well,
yeah,
it would have to be only because, people say, well, GPS looks so good outdoors. Remember, often a lot of the commercial, particularly DJI aircraft that we're flying, the hover is actually vision position as well. The straight GPS hover, I remember of the old Phantom 2s and so forth without the ground help. was all over the place compared to what it is now, the Mavic 2, and it's just using its cameras. So yeah, it's great use of that technology, and obviously out on the Arduino guys are doing it. I mean, I can't figure how automated drone racing would be fun except for the programmer. Of course, that's what it is. That's
but
the race.
It is. But here's the interesting thing: they're also taking the inputs from the human-flown aircraft, and they're learning and saying, well, if this is your inputs from your sensors, this is what the human did. So learn from that, and year after year.
Yes, machine learning is definitely underlying a lot of that progress for sure. It has to be. Yep, it's great.
Yeah. Okay, is that a kettle?
Oh, I don't know. No, Jackie's doing the washing up. Get back there in the kitchen. Sorry.
Okay.
That was brave.
Very brave.
I'll get a plate thrown at me soon.
Okay, our next story, we've got footage emerging of a drug drop into a prison in Dublin. Check this out. So this is nothing new. There's been lots of reports of drops into prisons before, but what is new here, the actual clarity of the footage that they've got from the aircraft. So the aircraft has obviously been recovered, and from what I understand, there's more footage than what we have available here today. Again, with the pilot of that aircraft being caught on their own camera, if you like. So, if you are going to be a bad guy and go drop drugs into a prison, don't take a photograph of yourself doing it for a start.
Yeah, particularly if you're going to lose the aircraft, So, people just don't often think these things through. The dropping device used these days is usually a bait dropper, a regular fish dropper. I don't know why the drones aren't recovered all the time unless there's some kind of counter-drone technology. It seems simple, particularly from that height, to recover the aircraft anyway. And then again, look at automated flight. So there's a lot of different risks for prisoners at the moment. And as you know, we've been working with the Merowyn partners on the security of prisons here in Australia, and it's still a long way to go. But we're getting more and more clever at it, if you like.
Yeah. Here's an interesting one: a speed record. The Guinness Book of Records for the fastest speed out of a drone ascending. So how long do you reckon it would take, John, for you to fly your drone up to 328 feet?
Oh, 328 feet. That's what we're setting here. Let's have a look.
Well, this is a representation of what might be happening, but it was actually 2.732 seconds to get to 328 feet. Yeah, we don't have real footage of this one, unfortunately, but the story was worthwhile having a look at nonetheless. A New Jersey student broke a Guinness World Record when his quadcopter drone got to 328 feet in 2.732 seconds. That's just insane.
Like a rocket. Yeah, it's rocketing up.
Yeah. Really interesting. And by the way, all of these stories, we've got links to the original source websites where these come from if you check out the description. Also, if you go to Dronebook, which you can find a link to Dronebook in the description as well, it's got links to all of these news stories and many others. There were so many stories this week that we were just full of them, pardon the pun. But moving on to our next story, on to a surveillance kind of topic. This is a bit of a mixture of a few things together. So starting at the very beginning, we all know about DJI's Aeroscope and how it's going and sniffing the drone ID information. Your drone is telling the world where it is at all times. Now, the other thing that's happening is drones are sending data to other places and to other services. And one of those has recently been compromised. And on the screen at the moment, we've got a video that's just from one of these companies. I don't have any audio for that. There was some other stuff in there that I couldn't play, but this is the company that's actually been compromised. So this is called DroneSense. If you're using DroneSense, please be aware that your data has been compromised. Why is that a bad thing? Well, Motherboard, which is one of the companies that published some of this info, they obtained this data and they were able to plot the drone flights from a police department onto maps, showing a drone meticulously scoping out an apartment complex in its car park near Atlanta, Georgia, another one marked as a disaster assessment shows a drone flying over a playground, another one, a mapping mission, and so on and so on. But if drone sense has been breached, a law enforcement putting too much faith in some of these technologies without understanding or accounting for the risks.
Always at risk with cloud-based stuff, of course.
Yeah. And there's one more side to that as well. Rather ironically, so law enforcement said, hey, we've got a problem here now. Well, they didn't say. They got sprung when their data got leaked. But then a few moments later, the US Justice Department updates its drone policy to address cybersecurity and privacy concerns. So they've got a new policy which talks about that and what they can and can't do, and you're not allowed to go and surveil people without warrants and all of those kind of good things.
Sure.
But they've just been caught doing it. So it's seeing both sides of the coin there.
I think there is a section of DJI with the Mavic Enterprise where you encrypt the data and it doesn't come off the machine at all. That's the camera feed and so forth. And so that's been built up for law enforcement. I know some of the law enforcement agencies are using that here, the AFP particularly. But that's going to be the new thing, as we said. I remember we went over it last week. These aircraft were never designed to be secure. No one ever thought about security protocols, really, or that perhaps prosumer drones would be used by law enforcement. Perhaps that's more the point here, that they've picked up and using the DJI aircraft. Which so the Mavic Enterprise is an interesting one, but we've got two of them, but I'm unfamiliar with what the clients really want yet. Sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And one last thing, we're going to move on to one more quick story before we bring in our guest. We're just going to jump out of order a little bit and go down to number 11. So this one is a story relating to DJI. There's a company called CADX, CADDX, and they'll be making their Vista digital video transmitter system for DJI. They've put that on the market, and we've got a photo of this on the screen at the moment. So just from an FPV perspective, good to see that we're getting that kind of technology now available where you don't have to use the actual DJI transmit end. Mitch, yes. I've just brought your audio up there. Do you want to quickly comment about that?
Boy, that is really good to see. I had not heard of that before, but if that's an alternative to the DJI Air unit, and it doesn't cost $179, and the CADX cameras, I use them almost primarily. They're terrific cameras. So
if I remember correctly, it was $65.
Oh my God!
I'm just
DJI's going to have to scramble a little. This thing works any good.
I'm just trying to find to that website at the moment. It's not around. Never mind. It's not working for me at the moment, that website. But
do they say when it's coming out?
No, it's immediately available, apparently.
Wow.
I'll have to look into that.
Really good one. And while we've got you here, Mitch, let's go and bring you into the screen at the moment. Welcome, Mitch, as our guest. Oh, my goodness gracious. It says Malice Vex, old guy. Vex. That was... we're having lots of fun technically today. Malice Vex was our guest last week, and I updated the spreadsheet, but I thought I changed that for... Never mind.
That's okay. I mean, I'll be whoever you want me to be.
You're in good company, though. He's a really good pilot as well. So, Mitch...
Probably a better pilot than I am.
Mitch, you've got a channel, and we've got our little Nightbot going and putting your channel link. Encourage everyone to go and check that out at your leisure. But Mitch, tell us about yourself for those who may not have come across you before.
Oh, wow. Well, judging by who's in the chat, most of the people here in the channel already know me, and I consider most of these guys friends. But for anybody who doesn't know me, I started this YouTube adventure 1 year ago. Just had my first birthday party and started out primarily camera drones. But being an adventurous guy that I am, I decided to get into FPV drones and started flying them, and then started into FPV fixed wings, and now I'm fooling with iNav, so I can have some FPV drones with some autonomous capabilities, and DJI got the DJI system, and I put out a lot of videos on these different subjects.
Yeah. Mitch, just a quick one. My producer, who hasn't seen some of your content before, made comment and reference to your mascot on the screen. She's busy pointing at me, saying, "Look at the look at
the monkey." Yeah, that's. I didn't think of this name, but I think Spike or some of the guys in the chat named the monkey Spank. And sometimes he just decides he wants to be the center, like the center of attention, and gets there right in front of me.
Yeah. So what I'd like to do now, I've got some video content from your channel. We're going to put some video up, and John, I'd like you to watch this carefully because it's a quiz. So let's play that video. So this is one of your videos.
You see the windmill propeller's sitting there windmilling already, so that means that the wind is starting to kick up a little bit.
So this video, I'll just turn the audio down a little bit and explain what we're doing. So there's something that, Mitch, you were sharing with your audience that you learned during this flight. And I love the way you just explained something. This is what I learned out of it. It was a good experience to see the learning. But John, watch what happens and tell me what you think it is. Not yet.
And here we go.
I'm watching.
Have you got the audio as well there, John?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Heavy.
No, I think we lost the audio.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a wonderful bug in Wirecast where the audio dies halfway through. I can tell you what he's saying.
I'm holding just way too much up in it.
So he's saying that the drone is nose heavy. So this is his first flight with this aircraft.
Oh, it's a maiden, right? Yeah, okay.
Maiden flight.
Usually out of trim. You're going like crazy to get the trim sorted. There you go.
Okay. Yeah.
There it is. I can hear the trim.
Is the audio working for you now?
Yeah, I can hear the trim changing on the 9X. All right, it's not as big as a My Twin Dream, is it? It's a smaller version. What's the aircraft?
It's a Sonic model binary.
Okay, cool.
And twin engine, 1,200 millimeters, 4-foot wingspan, 1,200 millimeters.
Yeah.
Whoa, something is definitely not right with that.
Well, it's in one piece.
That was the first flight, and it's an FPV airplane, and of course the first flight was line of sight without the goggles.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Well, we got a little dirt on the bottom, and let's see what happened. I put all this up trim in it, and it doesn't even look like it did anything.
Yeah, look.
Yeah.
So, John, and our audience in the chat, first person to pick that wins. Don't know if we'll give away a DJI prize today, the No Limit Drones license key. Who's going to guess what it is first?
What was it? What's the question?
What was wrong?
What was wrong? What went wrong with the flight?
Oh, I don't know. If I'm looking, I couldn't quite see from the screen whether the trim was working the opposite direction. But that would often happen.
No, that's not it.
Not trim.
Nope.
But it's landed in one piece. I would have said it was a successful flight.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
My producer has just written on a piece of paper and held it up to me what went wrong, and the piece of paper had the pilot.
Yeah.
No, the pilot actually got it down in one piece.
Yeah, pilot was the functioning part.
Yeah.
What was it, Greg? What was wrong?
Just let's have a look at the chat first of all. And can you put the split screen, my producer, of John and Mitch up there? It's on the right somewhere. While I go and have a look at the chat.
Trim not working fully, Jody says.
Yeah, so that's drone shots. Trim not working fully.
Trim not working fully? I can't see from the screen whether the trim moved when you selected it. So
it did not.
Oh, okay. That would be it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't see it move, but you usually need to see a little bit of movement because you went all the way. I could hear it go. Once it does that, you're going all the one with full travel. So to the end.
AZ drone dude, it wasn't too heavy. It's
just a trim issue.
Look, we'll go with drone shots. Trim not working fully, but the actual truthful answer, Mitch, do you want to go?
Yeah, what happened was, this was the first airplane I ever built, and I'm using the Jumper T16 radio, an Open TX radio. All my RC airplanes, all my life were JR and Spectrum.
Yep.
And I cranked some Expo into it because it was the first flight, and I wanted to have full throws, but I wanted it to be fairly, docile around the center.
Yeah, sure.
And what I found out on the Open TX was there's a setting that says trim limit.
Yeah.
And that only allows a certain amount of trim and then it stops. And I needed a lot more trim than that because of the Expo that I had.
Yeah.
So effectively, I had no trim, and the sticks were so soft around the center that when I pulled back enough to take off, it felt like I had to force it off. But in reality, I needed that much stick just to get the elevator up high enough to take off.
Yeah.
And so in reality, there was absolutely nothing wrong with the airplane at all. The airplane flew great. It was the fact I just couldn't trim it out.
Yeah, that's right. It was always very nervous.
My wife is holding the paper up again. The pilot.
The pilot.
The pilot. The builder in that case.
Yeah.
In that case, it was the builder and the person who programmed the radio.
It's always a challenge on the maiden because you want to have your fingers on the right on the sticks, but you got to have your another couple of fingers ready to go for that trim wherever it is. I find I can crank the elevator if you fly in mode 1, like I do. You've got your ailerons and elevator separated, so a down trim or up trim you can hold in the elevator a bit easier. I find the challenging one is with the throttle and the aileron on the right. If the aileron trim is way out, the aeroplane will roll on its back pretty quickly. While you've got the throttle up, so it takes a little bit of practice. I know.
Yeah, I've always flown mode 2. I don't know how any of you guys fly mode 1, but it's how you start out, I suppose.
It is, yeah, really, because in the very early days, you only had 2 channel sets. And so I think that was really what it was. And so just having 2 channels with one left thumb, one right thumb made perfect sense. And then we just never were able to change back after that. But there's a lot of interesting reasons why one works for some people, one works for the other. It is what you're used to.
Yep. I'm just going to pause for a minute. I'm just going to pause for a minute. Just some stuff happening in the chat. To Mr. Hurst, you make a comment, I'll go and make my own show with people throwing dishes around in the background and expect to be taken seriously. Look, apologies. John lives on a boat. He lives on a houseboat, and, his wife lives on the boat too, and it's a very cramped kind of situation. He doesn't necessarily have the opportunity to have people moving around. And the microphone today picked up the background noise more than usual. Welcome to the real world.
Sorry about that.
Apologies. Yeah. It doesn't happen every week. And in fact, it's the first time that it happens. Try not to be so touchy is all I can say to our viewer that's commenting about that in the background. But
Sorry about that, guys. I can always...
Don't sweat it. Don't sweat it, John.
Don't worry about it.
I timed him out. I'm the grumpy vlogger. I get by with that crap.
Anyway, thanks, Grumpy, in the background. Let's get back. So, Mitch, let's get back to you just for a second. You've been flying for how long now? Let's start at the beginning.
Well, I started flying RC airplanes in 1967. So I've been flying RC.
They had RC airplanes in 1967. That's before I was born.
I know they did, and I was actually stationed in Germany in the Army, and Graupner had just come out with one of the first proportional radios, and that was my first radio, was a Graupner proportional, and I had to teach myself how to fly, and I did, and crashed and tried again, and crashed and tried again, and I've been flying RC for 52 years.
Can I just ask, what is a proportional radio? I haven't heard that term.
Well, yeah, it's a long explanation, and you have to understand the technologies before. But basically, it means if you move the stick a little, the servo moves a little. If you move the stick more, the servo, it has a servo mechanism, so the control surface follows the movement of your stick exactly. Whereas in the old days, they had what they called escapements. John, you know what escapements are?
I do, yeah. You clicked it one way or pushed a button, and you got full left rudder. Push the button
and
twice,
then you let go of the
right
button,
rudder.
You got the other way.
That's right.
And you had to pulse the button to make it go. And they flew these very flimsy, slow, light airplanes.
Yeah,
and basically
I never had one of those.
But only. No,
I came in. My first set was proportional too, and that would have been in '72. That was a bit later than that, but I can remember reading in the magazines about proportion. Because to flyers today, you know, if you've only come into flying recently, you can't imagine what it's like to not to have proportional movement at all. It was just a hit and miss, literally all the time, whether you got the thing on the ground or not.
And not only that, but back in those days, you had to haul around vacuum tubes in your airplane.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was very different. You know, but even then, though, what's interesting to point out, Mitch, you know, the modelling world has for so long led, you know, many parts of aeronautics. I mean, Burt Rutan, all those guys that build futuristic airplanes were model aircraft builders, mostly because any concept that you want to try in a model airplane is scale up. You can scale up, you know, provided you got the materials. You can build anything. And I think that's what fascinated me about building and flying, you know, in the early days, that I could just dream something up and try it, you know, and it was, as long as I had enough balsa and kept my engines going, it was such a fun, you know, thing to be part of. You know, go out to the field and take something that looks crazy. We had flying dog boxes, lawnmowers, you know, or shaped like lawnmowers out of balsa, and you know, pretty much anything you could make fly if you had enough high horsepower. But coming into remotely piloted aircraft and system and drones and so forth for the RC flyer is fascinating, isn't it? I mean, you must have had that. What was the first multi-rotor you flew?
Well, I flew helicopters for a lot of years, big RC helicopters. And I did the 3D stuff with the helicopters too, all the crazy inverted flying.
Like that Alan Szabo guy.
Alan Szabo.
Szabo, is it? Yeah, I've seen him fly.
And the old man just died, as a matter of fact, not too long ago. Junior now is getting all the attention. But no, I flew those things. I flew jets, turbine powered jets in scale competitions, and then the drones came along, and I, of course, you know, anything with a controller, I was fascinated, and I always loved photography, so I kind of got hooked on the photography drones. But after a while, that kind of left me wanting the actual thrill of really flying, and it's not an insult to camera drone guys, but you know, you're not really flying them, you're directing them, you're pushing them around the sky. They're stabilized. Everything is stabilized. You let go of the sticks, they stay right where you put them. So I decided that FPV looked cool. Now I'm not a young kid, but I do have the muscle memory of the sticks. So I jumped into FPV, and I've been successful at it, surprisingly enough. And then
I don't consider myself an FPV guy. I don't own an FPV aircraft, but I do thank my wife for the first drone that she bought me. Was a non-stabilized aircraft. It was just a toy drone kind of thing, and that's how I learned and got hooked on flying. Would I do FPV now? Possibly one day, but for the moment I'm enjoying the one that I've got. John, how much FPV flying do you do yourself?
I've not done a lot of it either. It's funny. It didn't ever cross over. I never made that crossover. So I have my drone aircraft, that I work with. We haven't had to use FPV in the work environment. So, and I've just kept my scale models and radio control aircraft. I've got Piper Cubs and Tundras and Beavers and all that sort of stuff. I just like to have them raw. So, to fly them as they are. So there was an FPV fitting for the Tundra, and I got close to doing it, and I have flown the Parrot Disco FPV, so I've had a go at it, but I haven't got it down, I must say, at all. You need to do it quite a lot to get comfortable with it, and to really make that transition, because I saw it as a big transition, Mitch, between flying line of sight and flying FPV. As you say, got the muscle memory of the sticks, but it's a different world.
Yeah. I agree, John. It was a lot harder to get used to than I thought, and using the goggles. And I'm a pilot too. I mean, I have thousands of hours of real flying. So I figured initially, hey, I know what it's like to fly from inside a cockpit. I've done this all my life.
Yeah.
You put those goggles on and it's a whole different world. So I just got myself a little tiny whoop, a little Emax Tiny Hawk. And I flew it hundreds and hundreds of flights in the stabilized mode inside the house, just flying around the furniture, underneath things, around things, just to get used to the feel of flying through the goggles. And now I'm not a ripping kind of FPV guy that does the Rotor Riot kind of stuff. I fly more smooth, big maneuvers. I like to do big power loops and big split S's and nice cinematic type stuff rather than try to crash them into trees. But it's what I enjoy, and I don't have any pressure on me to race drones or do any of that stuff. But I have gotten in now to the starting to build some iNav drones, and iNav is like Betaflight, but with a ton of GPS features. And I'm going to do a video of one I just built, and I'm flying it now. It actually has returned to home in auto land. So you have the best of both worlds. You can go up with the goggles and rip around and fly around and do loops and rolls and everything. And then you get in trouble or anything, or you just you're done. You throw a switch, the thing levels off, turns around just like a Mavic, flies home, turns back around and lands right where it took off. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So I'm just going to pause there for a minute for a couple of things. So Lloyd, our grump in the background, has just called me to let me know that the on-screen chat is not working, and I was waiting for him diligently to put something up on the screen to say thank you to Wayne King for his super chat. So in lieu of that coming up on the screen, let me just send that cheer out. Thank you, Wayne. Appreciate it very much. So one of the wonders of doing live broadcast week after week is when the technology you've got keeps on letting you down. Unfortunately, that's happened today. Apologies. Just keep watching the chat locally. Let's do this. We're getting to the point where we're getting late into the show. Mitch, stick around for a little while. We're going to go and play FPV Korner now, which is one of our regular segments we have on the show. We've got a guy by the name of Greg Hilton. He goes and finds the best of the best out of Australia, and this one's Malice Vex, who was our guest last week, and this is a one-pack edit for Stu at UAV Futures. Stu challenged him to do a one-pack edit, and here it is, so let's have a look. So, Mitch, what do you think of our Australian kind of look and feel of our outback flying?
Oh, well, he's a tremendous pilot and way ahead of me. I've been flying FPV drones now for maybe 6-7 months, and I'm very proud of how far I've gotten it in that period of time. But I'm probably a couple of years, or if ever, being able to do that. But I'll tell you, one of the things that I look for in flights like this, and they call it the flow of the flight. This is the term that they use. Is that it's fun to do loops and rolls and different maneuvers, but when you're doing a flight like this, it's like playing a pool. Making the shot is one thing, but setting up the next shot is just as important. And this kind of flying is like that. And you'll notice that as he comes out of every maneuver, he's already smoothly transitioning into the next maneuver. And that's a real art and a talent. It takes a lot of practice.
Yeah. I didn't realize there was some golf course footage in there as well. I was busy changing some techie stuff to try and fix some of these problems, but didn't know there was a golf course in it, but still beautiful footage.
Oh, the flying is very, very, very good. I'm jealous.
Oh. Turtle mode. I love watching FPV pilots do that. Oh, let's just crash into a tree and let's just flip it over.
Yeah,
John.
If you haven't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
John.
I was going to say if you haven't broken the prop, you can do that.
True. Yeah, you can do that. It's got prop guards on mostly. I think you need to have that kind of thing, don't you?
Yeah. Just a question for both of you. I remember reading a while back that I can't remember if it was I think it was the Mavic, and I actually saw someone with a DJI shirt flying a Mavic, not the Mavic 2 or whatever, the older model Mavic, and they were flying it as an FPV drone. So they'd taken off all the limits, the restrictions, and doing some absolutely insane flying. Have you guys seen that?
No, I haven't seen that one, but I've heard. I did read some of it because the no limits software allows you to crank up the body angles and so forth and get rid of turn off a lot of that stuff. But without the limiters on, some of those aircraft have got plenty of power. There's no doubt about that. Even just flying in sport mode, sometimes you can see they crank along pretty quickly.
Don't know it can necessarily go as fast as that one we saw earlier the.
You're not talking about a racing aircraft, but even just your stock standard aircraft will still perform pretty well if you get the. What you've got to do is have the body angles working much higher, and the challenge then is to get the camera at the right angle. That's why you see on if you're familiar with FPV races, the fuselage is sitting like this, but the camera is set like that, so that when it's flying, the camera's pointing forward and the aircraft's up on a high body angle.
Yeah. Well,
one of the challenges.
Right now, we've finished with that, and it's time now to do something we love doing.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to play Stump the Yank.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's that time that we love and you love and our guest hates, because we're going to play Stump the Yank, and with our stump master in the middle today, Lloyd Mendenhall in the middle. Okay, there we go. So here's the question today. We're going to have Lloyd ask the questions today, and I'm going to have John on the other side today just to see if he knows it as well, to make sure that it's fair dinkum. There's our first Aussie word of the day, fair dinkum, John. Oops, we've lost John's audio.
No, here I am.
What is the word?
Don't change
fair
your
dinkum.
Fair dinkum.
Fair dinkum.
Fair dinkum. Yeah.
Legitimate or truthful. So that's what fair dinkum means. So now that we've already had you fail the first question, Mitch, Lloyd, our stump master or our grump master, whatever you'd like to call yourself, what's your question of the day?
Well, what is a bludger? Is it?
Oh, yeah, good.
Is it a
heavy stick that you beat people over the head with? Is it a stirring paddle that you give your wife so she can stir the wash? Or is it a lazy guy?
Oh, I would have to guess lazy guy.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, congratulations.
All right.
Bludger. That's right. That's what you got. Guys sitting around with a shovel, leaning on a shovel, waiting for a hole to get dug. They're bludging, because there's the verb to bludge as well. So you can be a bludger, you can bludging, all sorts of variations of bludgers you can have. But basically it means, you're not doing what you're supposed to do, at least.
Yeah, well done. Have we got one more?
Yeah, I've got one more. What is a slab? Now, is that a bunch of ribs ready to go on the barbecue?
A slab of ribs? Yeah.
Or is it a...
It is in this country.
Well, this is Australian. Okay. Or is it a big piece of, like a roast? Or is it a case of beer?
Or is it concrete?
Or is it concrete? That's right.
Well, that's too obvious, and the ribs are too obvious. So it's either a case of beer or a roast. That I'd have to guess it's a case of beer.
Yeah,
it is a case of beer. He got two of them.
Right on, man. That's
well done.
Representing the Yanks over here.
Yeah. Good on
Okay,
you.
we didn't get to stump him. John, give him one. Go on. You think of something right off the cuff.
So there's a place here called Billy Kickatinalong. Is it on the west coast or the east coast? It's either on the west coast or on the east coast, or it's actually not in Australia at all. Billy Kickatinalong.
I think that's. I think you're pulling my leg with that.
Yeah, that's right. We're pulling your leg there. It's not a place at all. Wheeler Barraback is another one as well. You got that place? Wheeler Barraback, Billy Kickatinalong.
And then there's Upper Come Back to West, which was one of the famous ones of Hey Hey It's Saturday. But
yeah, that's right.
Mitch, thank you for being our guest. It was great to have you come and join us and share some stuff.
You're welcome.
Stick around in the chat.
Thanks for having me. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. And what we'll do now, John, we're just going to go through a couple more news stories. We're getting close to being overtime, but there's a couple of really good ones. The next one, very quickly, was 106, I think we're up to. This one is Turkey has acquired a new military drone with a machine gun mounted, and it can fire bursts of 15 bullets. And it looks interesting. We've got a video of that one as well. I know in the US they had the law you're not allowed to weaponize drones, but I guess the people who made this one didn't see that.
I want one of those.
Of course you do, Grumpy. So that's that one. That's a new one out this week. Another piece of news, we've got Lyft offering rides at the moment. Lyft Aircraft said 13,000 people have signed up for drone rides, and flights begin in beta mode in Texas. We've got some video footage of that. Have a look. So this one, Lyft Aircraft, as I mentioned, this one I think was the CEO of Amazon, Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos. He checked out and had a look at that.
Looks like a volocopter from there.
Yeah, 18 rotors. Very nice little aircraft. Unfortunately, the audio had some stuff that we couldn't use online. Otherwise, I would have shared that with you as well. But
it's similar to a Volo. Not an actual Volo, but very similar in design and structure. Really light carbon. I wonder how long the joyrides go for.
Let me see if I got some info on that. By the way, how much does the aircraft cost? $495,000.
I'm ordering one for Christmas.
A ride lasting, wait for it, several minutes will cost between $149 to $249, depending on which early bird special you get yourself into.
So it's dearer to joyriding than a helicopter.
Yeah, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Dallas, and Austin and Seattle and Portland are still being looked at as well.
Yeah, I'd have a go at that. That'd be great.
It looks like a good one, looks like an interesting one. And moving on from the lift one, we're going to move on to hippos. So only in Australia you would have University of New South Wales researchers spying on hippos using drones, and they're using traditional DJI multi-rotor Phantom 4 and that kind of generation to get a bird's eye perspective of the life of hippos, what they're doing, their breeding patterns.
This is a very large invasion of privacy.
Oh, yes. They're spying on the hippos. Is that under the HIPAA Act? No one got that one.
Yeah, that was bad.
That was bad? Okay.
Did you see that?
Did I
Sorry,
see
we're just
what?
getting some more disturbance on the boat here. We're getting pelicans coming up to the boat today. So the mum pelicans have been out doing flying lessons with Junior, and there's a small island, a sand island from over here, with another sand island, a little bit of a gap, and so they take a big run, getting their flying shots together. Oh yeah, you got it. Can you see it out there, Jackie? Now?
Oh, he went right
Past us. No, he's
and
gone.
I was like,
we'll try and get some photos for you. But the takeoffs are fantastic. It's usually once Mum has seen the first takeoff, she says, "Right, that's it. You know, go do your own thing. I'm not showing you anything else now." And then you become competition for the fish. But they're incredible fishermen. Anyway, I digress.
Indeed. So next one on the list. So this one I've titled Explorer. So this is a drone that knows where to go. So this drone doesn't have someone to tell it where to go. It makes decisions on the fly, and they have it in a forest environment. So what they're doing is basically a 3D ortho map of the forest, and this is the first time it's been done from below the canopy. And the drone is 100% autonomous. It's doing its own thing. No pilot interaction. It's picking the coordinates for where to take the photos, and you see the output of the point clouds there. They're using that kind of information to understand the health of the trees. And I think you're on mute, John. I'm not sure.
No, I am. I'm just looking at it. It's interesting because that's one of the problems, of course, with photogrammetry is that you're getting underneath canopies and so forth without LiDAR. But, wow, that's a fairly advanced type of system, advanced aircraft to do that. Yeah. In terms of photogrammetry. Because, you know, then again, once you're down in the trees, you haven't got the same strength of GPS signal, which makes photogrammetry hard as well. Anyway, just challenges, aren't they?
Absolutely. Our last one for today, the FAI World Drone Racing Championship Grand Final is happening and qualifying is now complete. This is the opening ceremony, some vision from that, no audio from that. Same kind of thing. Unfortunately, there was some copyright music in there that I couldn't put up, but really good to see the FAI championships happening, and certainly Australia represented in there, obviously, as well.
So I should ask Mitch in the background there. FAI that's coming into the F class, like F3B, F3J, all of into actual model aircraft.
Yeah. Oh,
so
it's been for years.
Yeah. Really. Okay. In terms of quadcopters, it's interesting. I didn't know that the FAI had sort of taken quads on. I didn't either. Are they fairly strict? Oh, yeah, we don't know. I mean, obviously, what the limitations are, because when you're flying FAI class and whether you're flying S3B or whatever, the limitations of what you can present for the race is pretty limiting, isn't it? They're strict about the rules.
Yeah, I never participated in the FAI stuff because it was so strict and there was just so many rules and it was so rigid that
I never knew how they judge
if you go
the FAI stuff.
If someone goes to FAI.org, certainly they're listed as the World Air Sports Federation. So
absolutely,
yeah,
they're the top. They basically set the rules and for competition. And the competition is fierce throughout the world. I was lucky enough to meet one of the Austrian pilots that flew F3B, and they had a team, and it was, a really well cashed up team for a model aircrafting, 5 guys, all of the incredible amount of gear, and they put a lot of work. They were sponsored by Graupner. Again, you mentioned them before, Mitch, but it's a pretty tough thing for an individual to compete in. It's like the Formula One, really, of model airplane flying.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got one last part of the show to do today, our Explore Australia segment, again, where Greg Hilton helps put together this. And as always, get your dancing shoes on. It's time for Explore Australia. So this first one here from Clifton Springs, Australia, shot on a Mavic Mini, was sourced from Andy's Drone Pics and Vids.
So there's some shots from the Mini, hey?
Absolutely. The Mini, as far as being a capable aircraft, I mean, I was very, very skeptical because, I had a look at the Wi-Fi kind of status of it, and that kind of made me not as confident about it. But I'm certainly seeing lots and lots of good reports from people who've got them in their hands. Our second one, Matt North from Northeast Drone Productions, a regular around here, off to now Mount Cootha, and Forest Lake in Queensland. He says the Botanic Park here is a great spot for a day out, lots to see. And there's a lookout apparently where you can have a great view of Brisbane from the lookout as well.
That looks good.
Mitch, have you ever been down under, or would you consider that? Is that on your bucket list?
No, I haven't. Being retired now, I don't do a lot of traveling. So I go down under on Saturday nights when I go on the Spike show, and I'm down under now. But I'm afraid that this is about as close as I'm going to get.
Oh well, you don't know what you're missing out on.
Where would you go if you had one trip to go to Australia? Where would you go?
Well, I can share my most recent trip. I went down to Gulgong, just somewhere. It doesn't matter where you go. You go and enjoy the place. I didn't know there were so many wineries in Gulgong, enjoying that. And, some beautiful country scenery. What about you, Johnny?
I don't know. That'd be a hard question to answer for either. I mean, if someone asked me, or I ask you, Mitch or Lloyd, if there's one place in America that you had to see,
exactly,
what would it be? You just can't do it. It's a tough one because you miss so much. A lot of visitors just come to see the Opera House and maybe Uluru and then go home, but and miss a lot of the rest of it. But you can't really explore it. A country of our size, United States or Australia. But let's just say, the coast is where I love, anywhere on the coast of Australia.
Speaking of missing some things, we're missing the ship chase just a moment ago. There we go. This one was from Ship Therapy. I think the Maersk Utah and YM Portland opposing movements at Port Botany, or at least that's what it says, but I'm seeing sheep, so maybe this is not that one. Tasmania by Drone, a film taken from the Tour of Tasmania cycling race in December 2019, showing off some incredible landscapes. That was from Don Farrell.
Judging from all the videos that I've seen of Australia, it's awe-inspiring. It's absolutely a beautiful, beautiful country. But to visit, you'd have to come for 6 months. And even then, you probably wouldn't scratch the surface.
No, driving around it, is the best way. I think a lot of people sort of found that a great way to discover Australia, is just to hitch up a trailer and drive.
Get a van and go. Okay, this one, take 2, ship therapy. This one is a Ship Chase 54 is what he's listed it as. The Maersk Utah is departing Port Botany for Brisbane, and the YM Portland arriving from Kaohsiung, Taiwan. And he had a little time to catch them both. Now, we've had comments and discussions previously about filming around boats and that kind of stuff. If you're going to fly near a boat, do it in a safe manner. Now, I say that having not yet had a look at this video because it got sent in by Greg Hilton. I hope I'm not going to see him flying over the top of it.
You know, I live in Florida, Greg, and we have a lot of cruise ship ports in Florida. I'm about 20 minutes from one of them here, and then you go down, and there's some guys down in South Florida that do the cruise ship chases. Have you seen any of those videos?
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
I haven't. No. There we go. He's pulled off to the side.
One of them is pretty well known as a YouTuber, and he was flying by this cruise ship one day, and some of the passengers held up a sign with his name on it and waved at him.
It looks like fun.
So this is our second last show of the year. If you've got some videos you want to send in, we'll put the email address up shortly. By all means, do send in some content. We love to feature the Australian pilots. During the month of January, we'll still be doing stuff, but it won't be like the whole produced show. Just have a chat, have a chin wag, maybe do something on StreamYard or something like that. But give my producer a break. She's cheering in the background.
Yeah, just a reminder too that on December 24th in the evening, if you happen to be scooting around, there's a fair bit of traffic on that night, so you've got to be careful. And also looking for the big guy in the red suit. Also, if you get a drone for Christmas, take your time with it again. We said last week, and take it out of the box. Don't charge it up and start it up in the lounge room. Just take your time with it. Do the right thing. It'll last a lot longer that way, and you'll get a lot more pleasure out of it if you but maybe save it for the day after, or give Christmas Day a miss.
Definitely.
What's the fun in that?
I know, Lloyd. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. What is the fun in that?
Yeah.
Exactly. I was always the first one to take it out, whatever I had out of the box, and try and make it run or go or do anything before I charged it.
Of course you were.
I chase my dogs with it. Every Christmas I get a drone and I chase them with it. The highlight of Christmas Eve.
Let me just interrupt the chatter there for a second. Aussie Train Driver is the pilot for this one. God's Country Cinematic Grain Train. Southern short-haul railroads, broad-gauge grain rake, rolling along in northern Victoria. I don't know about God's Country, though. That's the Sutherland Shire, so everything else is accurate, though.
That's nice footage. all these shots look really well planned, and I think it's worth mentioning that, because when the train comes along, if you're making up your shots as you go, you can get caught usually with wires and towers and stuff. So if you scope out, just a little tip, if you're thinking of doing something like that, find where have it fly with where there's no train there. Scope out where you can do all of your runs and imagine what's going to be a nice reel, so that you've got them set. Because when the train comes along, you've only got limited time while it's there, and then you've got to sit around and wait for the next train and practice your shots again as you do it. Now, it might sound really, really, really boring to do it that way, but I can tell you that the amount of wires and stuff that are around train tracks and roads, you just want to know where they are before you fly. That's all. You won't see them when you're watching the train.
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
a tip for young players.
Okay, so obviously our audience is really old, so none of us here. How do we appeal to younger people to get into it safely without doing silly stuff? That's a question.
Oh, there's silly stuff and there's silly stuff, you know what I mean? The stuff that's silly where you're risking the aircraft, and the stuff that's dangerous. So it's knowing those differences that makes a difference. I'm sure Mitch would tell me, we've all done plenty of silly things in model airplanes.
Speaking of which, last week's story was...
So.
Speaking of silly, last week's story was priceless. And on that, I'll say it's time to end the show. If you would like to send in some video to us, that's where you send it to, upload@gregkuhnert.com. We're not just on YouTube. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Mixer, DLive, and a couple of others. So we're live on all of those different platforms right now. Please do subscribe on a few of those other platforms as well. Last but not least, if you've got anything you'd like to send us, there's a postal address, 5/127 Princess Highway, Sylvania, New South Wales 2224. Who knows, Santa Claus might bring me something. It's funny, it's interesting. I've had a couple of little bits and pieces, but the one that was most memorable was an American sending me Australian coins that were found in his house. It's just something like little like that. It's interesting receiving those, so very much appreciated. Any last words for this week, Mitch, before we go?
Go, Mitch.
Yes. Oh, go me. Okay. Well, thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me on. It was an honor, and I appreciate it. So just say good night to everybody. I always give everybody the rest of the day off, so take the rest of the day off.
Well, the rest of the day, it's only midday here, so thanks anyway.
It's Friday the 13th here.
And Lloydie, last words from you.
No, just appreciate you having us on. I always enjoy your show, and someday we'll get the chat thing working right. It'll work the whole show one of these days, but you never know.
I'll tell you what's going to happen today. After this show, Lloyd, can you put the rendezvous link into the chat? And anyone, instead of Discord today, jump into Rendezvous. A couple of people can come in and have a chat. It's a limitation of, I think, about 8 people. And I'm going to debug that chat thing with you after the show so that it'll be fixed hopefully forever. Last one, Johnny.
Hey guys, fly safe. It looks like the smoke's cleared out of the Sydney area for the moment, so we're flying again. But
John, are the Pelicans out there now?
No, they're not. They've gone, unfortunately. But I'll get some footage so I can definitely play those because they're great to watch. So, we've had a few visit, but I'll keep an eye on for you.
Okay. Look, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for being part of the show. Thank you to our super chatters. I think there was only one today, but I couldn't tell you 100% because the computer was doing weird things. But thanks for being part of it. See you next time. Bye-bye.
See you, bud. Bye, everybody.